this in gear and move out. So we want to stay on track. So on that note, let me pull up my documentation. Okay. All this budget hearing to order. And we will now get started. Director Hickey? Let me see. Who's going to go first?
Ronit Rubin from my office is here to present the budget package for us.
Okay.
Ronit, you're on mute.
Mm-hmm.
Louder.
The proposed fiscal year 2023 budget. No?
It's very low. I don't. Maybe my hearing's bad. I don't.
Might need to lean in a little more.
Okay, here we go. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Awesome. Sorry. The proposed fiscal year 2023 budget for the Department of Housing and Community Development totals $11.5 million, a decrease of $43 million, or 78.9% from the fiscal year 2022 budget. As you can see on page 8 of the analysis, the general fund portion totals $1 million and increases by $174,000, or 20.1%, primarily due to increased personnel expenses. The special fund portion totals $10.5 million and decreases by $43.2 million, or 80.5%, primarily due to one-time COVID grants appropriated in fiscal year 2022. Authorized fiscal 2023 spending also includes prior year special fund budget appropriations, which will be used for the continued distribution of rental assistance, as well as to fund salary expenses. On the top of page 4, analysis notes some new general fund spending facility within a budget that is largely supported by grant funds, if the council wanted to explore any potential reduction. Spending plan for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program 2 is discussed on page 7, along with other topics that begin on page 4. At this time, I would like to turn it over for discussion.
I know that was a little difficult to hear. A lot of the information, if you turn to page 2 of the analysis, it is summarized as far as the total budget, how much it's increasing, and so forth. So I'll turn it over to the chair, Mr. Hickey.
Mr. Chair, with your leave, I have a few prepared comments, if that's okay.
Okay. I don't hear any questions or comments from the members. So Director Hickey, you can take it away.
Great. Well, I do want to thank you all for having me today, Mr. Chair, members of the council. I'll point out last year when I came before you, DHCD wasn't finalized yet. So I'm going to consider this my first real official budget hearing. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Okay.
I just want to hit quickly on a few of the high-level priorities of DHCD. I think what you just heard from the summary, we're continuing to do efficient, effective work with grant funds. Obviously, COVID funds aren't lasting forever, so we're going to focus on building longstanding supports for constituents using what we have with modest increases in general funds. When we announced the creation of DHCD, I talked about with all of you 4 main areas of priority. Keeping people in their homes. That includes eviction and foreclosure prevention work. Prevent and wherever possible, collaboratively end homelessness. Increase access to housing, including focusing on pathways to home ownership, and more generally, investing in building capacity in our communities using our grant funds. Housing stability has been a major area of work in the prior year, and I just want to put a bit of a fine point on this. DHCD, working collaboratively with partners, stood up 2 model eviction prevention programs in a matter of months that have existed throughout the pandemic. One of these models, the STEP program, has been replicated across the state, focusing on working with large multifamily buildings and doing bundled settlements for tenants. In the recent iteration, using ERA 1 and ERA 2 funds that you heard Ronit mention, we'll have expended over $26 million in this latest round to assist over 2,600 households avoid evictions. By the time we're done with this in late fall, early winter, if you look at all the funds expended to date, we will have pushed out over $100 million for rental assistance in Baltimore County alone, using a variety of funds. Let that sink in for a second. Over 16,000 tenants submitted an intake form over the last couple of years, letting us know that they needed rental assistance help. Even factoring in those that helped themselves, found a solution, caught up on their own, proved not to be eligible, or unfortunately never responded to our outreach, we've continued to serve tenants throughout the last 2 years. We currently have 5,000 active cases in our new tenant portal that we're very proud of. It allows tenants to check their own status. It's probably one of the reasons you've been getting less calls about this. It also allows landlords to initiate their own applications, send them over to tenants, and check the status of their tenants' applications. If all of the applications in our portal right now were eligible, which we know isn't the case, but if all of them were, the total amount of rental debt as of today would be $20 million. We are currently working to spend through the final 19 million of ERA2 funds. We were able to secure another $7.5 million from the state. And we expect to get good news in the coming weeks about additional funding from the state that'll get us through the fall. We were told by Maryland State DHCD that because of the stated need in Baltimore County and our demonstrated history of getting money out the door quickly, that we're a priority jurisdiction for additional funds. Mr. Chair, we talk about the money quite a bit. If you'd indulge me for a second, I want to bring up an anecdotal example of what's really going on here. You know, from the beginning of the pandemic, we talked about the tsunami of evictions. We knew we weren't going to avoid this by throwing money at the problem alone. What it's taken are hundreds, if not thousands, of people hours working behind the scenes, our partners. One example, one of our smallest providers got a call from a client that had been unresponsive for months, hadn't sent us any documentation. We got a call. She's a single mother with 2 small children. Let us know that she was scheduled to be evicted within 72 hours. We worked with the provider. They located the leasing agent. When we called the leasing agent, we found out the constable was actually on site, ready to effectuate the eviction. Using our online portal, the vendor was able to pull up the tenant's information, confirm eligibility, and do an electronic commitment to the landlord for the funding. The constable left. The eviction didn't happen. Within the next few days, our program paid 9 months of past due rent to bring the tenant current. I wish I could say this was a singular instance. This happens every day. So when we say these programs and the money that we're spending is preventing eviction, we mean it in a very literal way. And we're not stopping here. We have our new portal up and running with assistance from students and local universities, again, to save on using permanent staff. We've created a partnership with the local library system where our team goes out with laptops, sets appointments with people that have had a hard time doing this online, helps them do their applications on the spot. We're providing additional funding to new nonprofit organizations that are focused on non-English speaking residents of the county, immigrant families that may have found barriers to the process, to make sure nobody is left out. And on an interesting note, I want to give a shout out to the fact that this multi-million dollar program is led in large part by Joy Roberts, who started with us less than 2 years ago as a fellow through the Baltimore Core program, an attempt for us to not add additional full-time county funded positions immediately till we prove concept. Joy's now running most of this, having started as a fellow. I want to give a brief mention to when I came before you first, I said a priority of mine was to build a strong, effective homeless services team. One that doesn't just manage grants, but helps set policy, works with all of you, agencies across the county to address homelessness wherever we can. I'm proud to say that we brought on an experienced homeless services chief and Heather Sheridan. We continue to build one of the best teams in the state. We've seen slow increases in our federal scores. We continue to advocate for additional federal money. We continue to advocate for desperately needed permanent supportive housing in the county. And we continue to try to bring together service providers and those that develop housing to make sure that they work together in unison. One initiative that I am proud to report out, as you know, we've had a very long wait list in our housing voucher program, which has oftentimes resulted in a lack of vouchers for chronically homeless families. We received 62 housing vouchers dedicated to those facing chronic homelessness and fleeing domestic violence. Our homelessness team, working with our Office of Housing, working with service providers, leveraging other federal funds to provide services. We've placed all of those vouchers with families, and we're currently in the process of finalizing the remaining move-ins for those families. 62 families and individuals who will not be homeless anymore, thanks to these resources and collaboration. I want to touch briefly on our affordable housing efforts. A lot of the discussions dominated by the VCA. Of course, a priority of DHCD is to maintain compliance with the VCA, but we do that as a floor. The idea is to create access to attainable, accessible, affordable housing where people want to and need to live, near their families, near where they go to school, near where they work, to support us every day in the community. We've hired a nationally renowned housing expert, Ashley Johnson Hare, who comes to us from Enterprise as our first ever Deputy Director of DHCD. I welcome her as a partner to this work. In just a few short months, we've launched an interagency work group that meets monthly for the first time ever. Different county agencies meeting to discuss housing issues and development proposals. We've worked collaboratively to set up a housing and homeless staff. We've executed a contract with a nationally recognized architectural firm based right here in Baltimore County to do all of the certification of our county financed, affordable, accessible units to make sure that they meet federal accessibility standards. And Councilman Patoka, happy to say we worked together on the County Executive's Affordable Housing Work Group. Those recommendations are almost finalized. We look forward to working in partnership with the council to see many of those realized in the coming months. As you know, the county executive has dedicated $16 million in ARPA funds specifically to the support and development of housing. We're working through plans for the best way to deploy that funding as we continue to navigate additional federal guidance. We've issued the first ever request for applications, bundling all of DHCD's available financial tools together in an attempt to tell developers Baltimore County is open for innovative ideas. We particularly want to partner with small, BIPOC, female-led, and emerging developers who need support and partnership from the county to do this work. Many of those developers come from, live in, and do business in Baltimore County. That's that full circle of housing that we see. Quickly on the VCA, we continue to move forward. You'll see within our current budget request, we're building our capacity to oversee compliance related to housing. We've had some setbacks in the preceding years, many related to supply chain issues and expenses related to the pandemic, but also the loss of a couple of large housing proposed developments. We still, however, are up to date. We've actually met 2022 goals. For some of our hard unit goals, we have fallen behind in the approval of hard unit goals. We expect to catch up on that rapidly in the coming months. Knowing my audience here with the council and the people that may be listening, I do want to make a point of saying I've always viewed DHCD as a constituent-facing problem-solving organization. We have the honor and the challenge of dealing with some of the most complex problems facing the residents of the county: homelessness, housing, eviction, and all the things those are tied to. DHCD receives hundreds of calls and emails a week, many through your offices. We are working continuously to build a reliable, complex constituent services entity in partnership with OCE. I think as you and your staff's experience, DHCD works diligently to address the needs of our constituents, referring when necessary, linking to resources whenever possible, and most importantly, providing accurate information to constituents, even if it isn't always good news. Mary Clay and our newest addition, Essence Cropper, have been working tirelessly to develop a responsive, solutions-based structure to help serve our constituents every day as we build the capacity to do more. I want to end by thanking Amir Asadi, our fiscal chief. This was his first budget cycle. I think he did a really good job of helping keep me up to date, up to speed. Valentina Washington, as always, as our analyst, helped guide us through this. It's a pleasure to be here doing this work, Mr. Chair, members of the council, and I welcome any questions or comments you have about this or our budget information.
Well, I thank you, Director Hickey. There's no question about it. Your office has really done a tremendous service in dispersing the funds that we were fortunate enough to receive from state and federal sources. And we certainly appreciate the direction in which you're taking the office and your zeal in trying to address some of the serious problems that affect us here in Baltimore County. On that note, I'll open it up to comments and questions from the members.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Councilman Katz?
thank you very much. Mr. Hickey, the story that you told about the mother with 2 children, I've spoken with people who had COVID and it left them in a situation where they're really unable to work anymore. I've actually talked to a couple people that because of the COVID vaccine, they've been disabled in some way. And, I've heard from people who have quit their jobs. I don't know why, but they do. And what I'm trying to, do you have any projections for the future? I mean, our population is increasing. I think the number of disabled people because of COVID has increased. And for instance, the person that you were talking about, had she been affected by COVID? I mean, was she able to afford the apartment 9 months ago? And was it she lost her job? Or does she have a potential of going back to where she was before, where she could afford the apartment? Or is, because of extenuating circumstances, is she going to be needing assistance in the future. And, could you give us a update? I know it's very hard to do
Sure.
because no one knows what's going to happen in the future, of what you think the future looks like as far as people meeting their mortgages, people paying their rent. And I assume you work with UI on the state level. Do you? I don't know.
Not directly, but
Not
but
direct.
it's all related, right?
Okay. Okay. That's my question.
Okay, well, that is an excellent question to start with. It's sort of the multi-million-dollar question that's going to drive the work for the next few years. The federal funding that we received was designed specifically, whether we liked it or not, to get out the door as quickly as we could to alleviate the depth of rental debt. The ERA2 money that we currently have in the door, although Treasury does keep ratcheting up the timelines, putting a lot of pressure on providers to push it out quickly, it does contain a limited amount of funding for what we would call housing stability funds. What we're doing, because everything, you're right, it is an incredibly hard question to answer. We are monitoring people that were in our portal that told us they needed help, and how many of them that we contact later that say, we figured it out. We worked out a deal with our landlord. We never want people to wait for support, but there is something to be said for our ability to continue to spread that money out. Because remember, we weren't doing deep asset checks under this particular funding source. Prior to the pandemic, you had to show income, bank statements. Some people were turned down because they might be able to solve their own problem. We were working on alleviating debt because, as you all know, if you owe 6, 7, 8, 9 months, when you get back to work, as I believe this young woman did, you're still not going to be able to dig out of that hole. We are looking at the data every day to look at what amounts. I'm very happy to say, at least preliminarily, the average number of months owed seems to be going down with the newer applications. We are monitoring, not just us, but also the United Way are carefully monitoring those coming back looking for second rounds of assistance. It is a more than insubstantial amount of people that got a significant rental assistance payment, but were still unable to continue paying their rent. We are looking at how to bundle not just this federal money, but other money available to us, including deeper end assistance money like the home ARP funds that the council just voted to appropriate last week. That's designed for deeper level supports. We're looking at things like housing navigation. What if you can't continue, even under the best of circumstances, to pay the rent where you are? We are, if you mentioned disability, we are prepared to accept people that lose their housing into some level of our homelessness support services system. That's inevitable. And we continue to work with the court system to get ahead of emergency requests for funding. We hope over the next few months to build a better data model, but what keeps me up at night are the people that will continue to need help, because eventually we're going to go from a resource-rich environment to a gap funding safety net environment, right? And it'll just be a different way that we have to approach this. But also, we've been conducting conversations with Dude and others. This isn't just about paying the rent, it's about income. And so ensuring as we move forward that people are referred and stabilized while they're able to get back out and seek job help. So we'll be tracking all this. I'm glad to come back to the council in the coming months and give you an update on where this is, but we're thinking a great deal about it. And I appreciate that question.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Cash. Any additional questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Petoki?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hickey, that was an excellent presentation. Happy Cinco de Mayo to you. I have two questions. One is kind of conceptual and the other one's detailed. So we'll start with the conceptual one first. One is related to affordable housing and meeting the voluntary compliance agreement. I try to keep my planning credentials up, and so with that, you have to take continuing education sessions yearly. And planners across the country in these sessions and webinars are saying that we have to look at the post-pandemic economy. And that post-pandemic economy is different than the current economy, whereas retail has changed. The nature of retail has changed. The nature of office has changed. And so with those changes, as we look towards the pandemic being behind us, are there opportunities? And there's some folks in the profession are saying, we've got to revisit the zoning code. We've got to unpack the zoning code. And in doing that, are there opportunities to see if there is a lane for affordable housing in revisiting a zoning code that was set up for um, a different environment for retail and a different environment for office space, and some of our shopping centers are kind of fledgling. Now, I'm going to preface that because there's also we can't look at the zoning code in absent of an adequate public facilities ordinance. And so I was just wondering if you and the agencies, when you meet together, do you discuss these kind of broad concepts about how Baltimore County will shape itself into the future?
I guess I won't get away with just saying yes, everything you just said. So I'll elaborate just a tiny bit. I mean, you did a good job of posing the answer in the question, and I appreciate that.
Maybe
Yes.
it's somewhat rhetorical.
Well, I think it's important, though, to put a fine point on the fact that this is obviously a complicated issue. Everyone doesn't agree on what should be done and how it should be done. I think we have put faces to so many names during the pandemic of hardworking folks in Baltimore County that can't afford to live in the neighborhoods they're already in, that need to move, that have been staffing our grocery stores and keeping our schools going. And we, as the county executive has said on numerous times, we need housing options available to everyone, everywhere in this county. And we need to think, I would be negligent if I didn't raise any possible strategy to do that. And then you're right. These are going to be hard, complex, hopefully fruitful conversations with you all internally, constituents, everyone in the coming months. Yes, we've talked about non-traditional places like shopping centers and others. Most people don't think about this, but affordable housing is intimately tied to concepts of revitalization. We have any number of older apartment buildings in the county that desperately need work, where I think the owners would be open to the idea of conversion to some kind of help providing for tenants to live in those places. So you have ways to deal with some of the public accommodation issues because the units are already there. I think there's a great deal of economic development in the county that begs for additional workforce housing. And there's opportunities there. And of course, there's continued scatter site, working with PAI and other agencies to look at derelict and vacant properties that can be resuscitated into first-time ownership. So yes, the short answer is we have to look at them all. Every place isn't the same, but at the end of the day, we need to be able to offer housing to those that need it and want it where they want to live.
And the advantage is in many cases, these fledgling shopping centers and office spaces are typically close to transit. And so there's that's a positive. Whether the school system has enough seats is another issue. But I think there's a lens that we might be able to, or a needle that we might be able to thread there.
We're going to have to, Councilman.
Yes. Second question is more detailed on the budget. And let me just have to switch screens for just a moment to take a look at this. I thought I saw I seem to have lost it, but I'll try to work from memory. I thought I saw a $125,000 mid-year addition for a senior advisor. And I was wondering if that is that 125 is that half a year's salary or is that a full year's salary?
No, I believe that was full. I'll clarify, but that's definitely not a half year salary. We,
Because it said mid-year and that's what confused me a little bit.
got it. The addition was mid-year, not the salary, but it's a great point. I'll confirm that for you.
'Cause I was gonna, if it was the full salary, I was gonna apply for that job. I mean,
Well, we'd love to have you, Councilman, but no.
Chair, may I be recognized?
Yes, are you done, Councilman Patoka?
yes, I am. Thank you.
Well,
Sure.
it was in response to that notation. Councilmember Patoka, good afternoon. Whenever a position is added after the budget cycle improved, wherever it falls in the year, the full salary, depending on when in the year it's placed in there.
I see.
As a
So that,
mid-year. That is a addition language nomenclature, mid-year add.
okay, gotcha. So that, it doesn't mean multiply it times 2. Thanks.
No, sir.
Thanks for that clarification. And also for the sake of clarity, I just wanted to say that I was, I'm very happy as a council member. I wasn't going to apply for the job.
Duly noted.
Director Blade?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to piggyback on Madam CAO's comments. When you're looking at the personnel detail for the budget book, we show it as a mid-year addition, and it shows in the subtotal of the given fiscal year. So for FY23, it's included in the total authorized positions. If we were adding it for FY23, it would have shown below as an addition to FY23. So because it was added during the year, it was not, there was no salary. They're covering the salary with existing savings. So you're correct. We're not doubling the salary. It should be 125 for FY23.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Blade.
Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
go
Mr.
right
Chairman,
ahead. Yes, Councilman Mark.
thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hickey, again, thank you for your help on so many constituent issues over the past few years. You're very responsive. I just have one question, and it follows up on what Councilmember Patoka mentioned, and it's about the complexity of zoning. My understanding is that the Affordable Housing Task Force looked at a proposal to recommend that we eliminate DR1 and DR2 zoning. We can look at a lot of recommendations, but as far as I'm concerned, I think that's a non-starter. There are many places we have placed DR1 and DR2 to reduce the impact of infill development. Even in a place like Perry Hall that has absorbed thousands of units over the past 30 years, that DR1 and DR2 zoning is important. So I just want to get that out there. We can look at a lot of things, but in my opinion, that is an absolute non-starter.
Okay, Councilman Marks, I just wanted to use this as a time to say that we just closed public comment period on that draft report and recommendations that were done by the work group. We're reviewing all those comments now, looking to see what can go in and looking to finish that up. And then I think the deep conversations about those issues are going to start.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, by the way. I want to note your office is incredibly robust in referring constituent issues to us. Some of them very sticky, but we've tried. That's what's really going on out there. So I appreciate your team being so on top of these things.
No, and I appreciate your help, particularly with the Dunfield community. I know that's an important community for us, and we'll continue to push for the community enhancements we've talked about. So thank you very much, Mr. Hickey.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Are there any additional questions to come? Okay, I think that'll do it. Director Hickey, we thank you so much for the work you're doing. And I know we have a lot more work to do, so
that's right.
We all just keep our nose to the grind. Keep it moving.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Chris, are we still on this channel or are we starting new?
No, Mr. Chair, we're staying on. This is OneLog WebEx today.
All right, fantastic. Next we have what, PAI?
I believe so.
Lauren, are your people ready?
Yes, I have Lisa Kispert, who will be presenting the budget for us.
Good afternoon. The proposed FY23 budget for the Department of Permits, Approvals, and Inspections totals $13.5 million, including $1.4 million in Metropolitan District funds, which the council does not appropriate. As you can see on page 1 of the analysis, the general fund portion of the budget totals $10.1 million and decreases by $359,000 or 3.4%, primarily due to the transfer of the real estate compliance program to the Office of Law, offset by increases in personnel costs, primarily salary increases for existing staff as well as overtime. The special fund portion of the budget totals $2 million and decreases by $500,000 or 20% due to reduced neglected property community fund expenses. On page 2, the pie charts show how the proposed funding will be allocated across programs and expenditures. Inspections and enforcement represents the largest program allocation, while contracts and services and personnel costs represent the largest expenditures. On page 3, the exhibit identifies the significant increases and decreases from FY22 to FY23 to the general and special funds. On page 4, the analysis notes the areas within the budget that support new initiatives or flexibility in terms of the hiring process where potential reductions could be identified if the council wanted to explore such options. Other topics for discussion, which begin on page 4, include personnel, the neglected property community fund, building, electrical, and plumbing permits, including the new online permitting system and ombudsman service, and the capital budget, enhanced productivity through technology project. At this time, I would like to turn it over for discussion.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Yes,
questions or comments from the members? Councilman Cass?
Yeah, I don't have the report in front of me, but I know when I looked at it, there was a chart regarding the number of issues that had been reported in the computer system. And there was an estimate at the bottom of the chart going across that of how many cases were expected. Was it this year or this or through July 1? Lauren, do you see what I'm talking about?
I think you're talking about the breakdown of the building permits, electrical permits, and plumbing permits. The last row says 20, it's FY 2022 projected, so that would be for the
Right.
full year because the line above captured it through March 31st. So that line is showing for the entire fiscal year what would be expected in applications and permits.
Okay, that's what I'm referring to. And I was just confused if there's only 3 months left in this fiscal year, how could it double?
No, that's just for the total because the line above only went through March. So
Right.
permits provided what it would be for the entire fiscal year. So
But the fiscal year ends July 1,
June,
June 30. So how, if there's only 3 months left in the year, how can it double?
well, maybe permits can talk about what they're planning to do in the next 3 months. They must be expecting a slew of applications. So
Am I
yeah, I
right?
see you're
What-
right. The numbers are going up significantly.
Yeah, I mean, you see what I mean though? And
Yes,
and
I do.
maybe there, I'm sure there's an explanation for it, but it did get, it was confusing to me.
Right. And I'm sure Mr. Gutwald can explain.
Okay.
That didn't come from you, Lauren, then it came from,
It was from, yes, it came from the department. Correct.
okay. I thought it was you. Okay, sorry.
Well, if there's no other questions for budget office or Lauren, why don't we let Director Gutwald start with that question?
Well, I'll first say good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. I just want to identify Joyce Schaefer from my office, does the number crunching, and a shout out to Aisha Morgan from OBF. She has assisted us greatly throughout this whole process. So I just want to do a shout out to that. To get to the direct question, I think the numbers, and Joy can back me up on this, I think it is because in my report, and I was going to bring this as part of my presentation, is that we are seeing 30% increase over what we've seen in past years, and come April, May, and June, we see a 30% above that typically. So we are projecting a number that's going to be 30% higher because we've seen an incredible increase in number of permits in January and February. I'm not even going to include December and November because I'll get into that, but in January and February, where that is our low point. That is our slowest time of the year. And we saw a 30% increase during those 2 months. And then we typically see a 30% increase going into the spring of any kind of all permits, because everybody, as you know, it's the weather opens up and people are asking for permits. So it may be a little aggressive, but that's what we were seeing, and that's why we're projecting those number of permits. So it's a straight line projection, really, is what it boils down to. I'm hoping it settles down. April's numbers are not proving that's true. They are staying right around that 4,000 mark, or close to it anyways. With that said, I'll get into my prepared remarks, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. As you know, we launched our new online permitting system November 1st, and I'm not going to lie, there were some bumps and bruises and trials and tribulations related to everything from system performance issues, addressing problems, report writing, uploading documents, fee calculations, assigning inspections, but we worked through them. A big shout out to OIT. I know Rob's here as well. We got through them. At certain times, I used to call it the war room. In our conference room, we had stand-up meetings addressing the problems. Sometimes I felt like I was Apollo 13 saying, Houston, we have a problem here. And there'd be OIT chiming back in and telling us how to solve the problem, or what we had to do, or what was the next steps to solve that problem. Whether we did it manually, changed our processes, or was a configuration issue. We had constant what we call sprints going on, saying, okay, here's where we're going to roll out a new configuration. So we solve this problem associated with that online processing permitting situations. As I mentioned, we are seeing some of the highest numbers of permits. We almost hit 4,000 in March. We ran about 3,680 in April, and it continues to go in that direction. I will remind everybody that part of that may be some of that I would say in December and January was some of the catch up, but we are, as I said in my report, we're 1 days with trades, we're 3 to 5 maybe with building permits, depending upon what the situation and complexity of the issue is. But I want to remind you that this is a 365 24/7 system, and we work 35 hours a week. So as I look out, and we got multiple phases coming with this new online system, the OT is going to be there. It's one of the ways we've managed this is through overtime. We've been able to stay on top of the situations, respond in a timely manner, if you will, as best we can, and solve the problems as quickly as we can. But as we move, there's going to be this bubble. Okay, so we get through the permitting. If that levels off, we go to plans review, we go to inspections. Those numbers go to those individuals in those respective divisions, and that overtime is going to move through that with that bubble as well. And we're seeing it already. I'm seeing it in inspections. One little glitch right now that we're trying to solve is that there isn't a way to cap the number of inspections in 1 day. So we're trying to resolve some of those issues, and we'll continue to see that as we move through implementing the additional phases through land use regulation, and that includes development management. Right now, we're expediting trade licenses. Right now, we got to move to miscellaneous permits. We got to go through zoning. We got to go through code enforcement. Ultimately, these are all the separate phases that we will continue to move out and go into the digital phase. So that brings me to the ombudsman, traffic cop, troubleshooter, whatever you want to call them. It's a combination of all three of those that we're looking at, and it really has no fiscal impact. And I give Director O'Connor all the credit in the world for recognizing a need that we need somebody with technological skills, but also knows our business process. And we're in the process of trying to recruit this individual right now. This is an individual who's going to deal with, as we have external issues going with internal issues. There are people who are not following the procedures or processes online. So we have to figure out and recreate, what did you do wrong, and why is your permit not getting through the system or going into an inbox, if you will, for somebody to evaluate that permit application and then distribute it and move it forward. So I see this person, as a combination of understanding our business processing, assisting people running through that business process so they know what the next steps are, but also solving some of those technological problems that we may have with the new system or the new processes that we're implementing with that new system. So I hope that answers the questions with that, because I have to explain to you that some of the permit processes, the permit processors that are currently dealing with what they used to do versus what they're doing now, the shift in their work is a complete paradigm of what they used to do. They have become business analysts. They're evaluating what the person's, how they answered the questions, matching it with a description of work that's being done, making sure the documents that they need are uploaded correctly, and that the fee calculations are done correctly. So they're assessing what they're showing and what they're doing, and sometimes the person has it all wrong. They've actually applied for the wrong permit because of how they've answered your questions, and that's the permit processors' daily work on top of answering questions and those kinds of things. So I just want to identify that their job paradigm has changed and their work activities has modified tremendously, and they are go-getters. They're the individuals who sit there and see the problem, they assess it and try and say, okay, here's how we're going to fix this problem for this type of situation in this issue. So that's sort of a lot of what I wanted to tell you today, and realize that the new system will continue to face challenges, but we're there, and we will deal with them each and every time we have an issue coming up. Last year, you approved 6 new code enforcement inspectors and approved the neglected property fund. We continue to make major enhancements and improvements to our code enforcement programs and policies. We've expanded our rat eradication program. We've implemented new training programs for our new and existing officers as refreshers. We've increased the number of community sweeps. We've engaged in a number of community meetings and events just to know that we're here. We're going out there and we're doing simple things in terms of our outreach and education to inform them of what is a code violation, what's not a code violation. Educate them on those kinds of things, tell them, who we are, what we're doing, and when we're out there, what is the process, those kinds of things. So we've changed the face of how rethinking code enforcement. So we are engaged in a lot of different community meetings, along with Office of Community Engagement, helping people understand how the code enforcement works, but also, we're doing door hangers, things like that, just so people are informed of what we've learned in this community and what we're doing there. So that's sort of our philosophy, and it's not just a matter of ticket writing and, hey, this is a code violation and hanging it on their door, sticking it to the door. We're out there, we're saying we're also here to help, right? We're here to help you understand what is a code violation and how do you solve some of these problems. Part of that is making reforms to our escalating penalties. We have to coordinate with the state's attorney's office and the court systems. It's taking a little bit longer than I would have liked, but these are the things we have to do to make sure that we are following our processes and procedures, within the law. So we can't just, if we're going to go to a property that's been abandoned, if you will, or is in disrepair, we just can't go in and demolish it. We got to go through. We got to get a search warrant. We got to sit there and say, okay, let's identify that this is structurally unsafe and unsound, and then we go through the court system to get the directive to demolish the building. So those are some of the things we're doing and working with the court systems, as well as the county law office and PAI in our inspections program. We also modified our tall grass regulations to be more expedient to community concerns on those problem properties, and modifying our contract with Auto Return so we can start dealing with inoperable vehicles. That is currently going underway. We have contracts with Auto Return, but this is modifying. It's up for an update, and we're asking them to. This is a situation where we will identify them that we have the ALJ's order. We have all the information that they can go and take that vehicle off the property. They will dispatch it like a vendor to a participating towing company, and the towing company will remove the vehicle from the property. Finally, we continue to work diligently on our blighted vacant properties or abandoned properties. I know that was a question. I am working diligently with GRSI. We're looking at a baseline information of all the properties that are in the county, utilizing a number of different resources, whether electric has been cut off, whether water meter has been cut off, whether there's been foreclosures, whether we've identified it through our code enforcement processes as being vacant, because there's records of abandoned property through our records, and creating a baseline. We will then go forward and we will do field verification throughout the summer. And I'm hoping to have that baseline inventory to identify the top priorities as we go through and either fix or demolish these abandoned properties and go through the legal channels and processes. I will also notice that we are working at the same time with Office of Law, DHCD, Planning, and Office of Community Engagement to see, again, what are the issues, what are the problems, how can we help? If there's a willing participant of a property owner, can we assist you in grants and funds to improve the property or demolish the property? We're looking at all those angles. It's not just come in, write you a ticket, and take you through the court system. It's also providing assistance and education as to where there's opportunities to improve the property as well. With that, I'll conclude my remarks and then open it up for questions.
So, thank you, Director Gutwall, and I think the ombudsman is a great idea. Certainly look forward to those positions, and you've been very responsive to me, and you've done a fantastic job, and I appreciate it very much. You're a problem solver, and that means a lot to me. Needless to say, it is extremely important to the economy of Baltimore County so that projects get processed as soon as possible so that we can get the approvals necessary, the people to work, the properties built, and the properties on the tax roll so that we can fund all the services that we provide to the citizens. So you've been doing a great job. I just wanted to put that out there. Whatever you need, let us know, because it's important that we get these things processed as soon as possible. Delays cost people money, they cost us money, and it takes away from the services to the citizens. So, glad to hear there's a lot going on. We'll open it up with Councilman Marks.
Thank you very much. Pete, you've been a terrific resource, and I thank you for helping us with so many inquiries. I just want to ask about auto return a little bit more. I've been on the council for almost 12 years, and I've constantly been hearing criticisms about auto return and a desire by some of the towing companies to competitively bid this contract. So are we extending this contract again? Are we continuing to piggyback? What's the exact status of this contract?
And do you want to explain? I can explain part of it, but I think what we are modifying. Yeah, I've heard some of the same complaints. I think we have offered to have them, work with us in terms of as we go through the procurement process to see what some of those complaints are, how auto return will be responsive to those complaints. It is piggybacking off of an Anne Arundel County contract, but we are amending it because we got some things that we want to do. I think Ed has some things that he wants to do with the contract. I obviously want some things to be done with the contract. And I know, and I can't remember the individual's name, they are working with some of those towing companies and those complaints to try and address some of their issues with auto return.
I mean, my understanding is we initially entered into this agreement under the Smith administration. Why wouldn't we go out competitively? I mean, is there a reason why we're not doing that?
I believe there's not very many people that do it like this. Auto return is like one of the few individuals that takes the whole dispatching issue away from the jurisdiction. So all we do is give them the issue, and then they dispatch it to the towing company that's available.
Right, I understand. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, to your point, Councilman Marks, I guess the issue for me as it relates to auto return is, when we have to tow a vehicle, I want to make sure that we're not building on unnecessary costs to the citizen who have to pay for the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Understand that we contact a company in California, who then contact people here in Maryland, in Baltimore
Mhm.
County, to tow the vehicle. And I'm sure they're doing it at some cost. And it always begs the question, how come we're not going directly to the tow? I'm not gonna get into all of that now because it's a pretty deep subject, and Councilman Marks, you did enough by bringing it up. and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, my principal concern is that we've had this contract now for so many years, and we're just keep extending it and extending it. And I understand the disadvantages with police initiated towing as well. I get that. That's just what I'm bringing up. We just seem to keep extending this forever with auto return. So I've said my
Okay.
piece. Thank you.
Sure. Councilman Katz?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Pete, hi. I want to thank you for all that you do to help me in my office and working with constituents. You have no idea how appreciative I am. I have a comment or a question about the computer system, the ombudsman, which I think is an excellent idea. Have you had enough time, or OT had enough time to see possibly if there are any changes that need to be made in the program to be more helpful to people who are, you know, as you said, giving the wrong information or applying for the wrong permit? I've had experiences with computer systems and with many users, and we were able to, in many times, narrow down various problems or issues that the users were having. You know, we have 20 instances of this and 30 instances of that. So we would hold classes, that kind of thing, and you know, inform people these are mistakes that most of you are making, and this is how it should be done. This is how to resolve it. And I'm just wondering, of course, you don't have your ombudsman yet, so of course that person would be making those decisions with your help. So I'm just wondering if you have any comments along that line.
Sure, two things I think there's two questions actually in part of that. We are constantly reevaluating and assessing what are all the problems, and is it a technological problem or is it a business process problem, and how do we solve that? And we still are having stand-up meetings every week. But there's one comment I make to folks every time is, if everybody's doing it wrong, then the process is wrong. If nobody's getting it right, then we need to change the process or the technology, because if nobody's getting it right, then that's a problem. But at the same time, we also have tutorials out on the website. So if you, before you even go to log in to apply for a permit, there are tutorials to say, this is how you do it. Here's the process. So watch this video right here. So we're trying to hit it at both ends, educate people and give them the tutorials and the information to do it. But at the same time, we are looking at, if this is a problem and we're hitting this many times, we're evaluating, is this a business problem or is it a technology problem? How do we assess that? I don't know if Rob wants to add any more to that.
Sure. Thanks, Pete. So Councilman Ketch, good question there. You know, we have literally, like Pete said, doubled the amount of permits that we're taking in a month. And, you know, being a 24/7, 365 application now, you know, getting 4,000 applications a month, you know, we do see a fair number of individuals who have difficulty. Percentage wise, it's low though. Overall, like Pete said, we're processing many of these permits daily. That being said, you know, we're working through these things in sprints. The process before this, as you know, the individuals that, you know, ran this agency before, technology was not a friend to that individual. So we had a paper process and a mainframe process that lasted 30 years. It was over 10,000 days that the mainframe application permit process had been running when we switched to this new system. So as we've moved to a new online streamlined system where it's a lot more transparent for our end users, there are changes and our lessons being learned. And as Pete mentioned before, we're doing these things in sprints. Very small example, we realized that we had the process where people upload documents in a poor sequence. So we're fixing that. We are only about 5 months into this new system. It's in its infancy. So I would continue to see improvements. I want to continue to see the improvements, each month as we get through these sprints to make things a lot easier. Overall, honestly, I think that it's been a huge success. There's a huge learning curve for PAI, an enormous learning curve for PAI, a large learning curve for a lot of our constituents. And, this ombudsman position is going to be that perfect liaison between the two. So I think that we've got a very solid plan moving forward. And honestly, I do commend Pete and his team because it was rough to switch from a 30-year process to a brand new online system.
And I think you're doing the right thing. I mean, this makes a lot of sense. I know with my work with other people, sometimes, and I'm not going to mention any names, Councilman Patoka, but some of the people who maybe aren't as young as I am aren't that comfortable with computers. So, all seriously, some people aren't. And so, but you know that. And I'm sure that you're helping the ones who just aren't. I mean, they're afraid of them. I don't know if I've met people who are really afraid of computers. And I hate to tell you this, but I don't like reading instructions. I just go in and do it.
I should mention, we still get about 300 to 400 people a week come in through the door, and we have kiosks set up that we will assist them, walk them through the process. So
Great.
We still have that. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. They take a ticket. Somebody comes out and walks them through the whole process, registers them, does everything with them, and helps them through the process to submit their application. So we still have that going, and I don't see that going away either. So I should mention that.
Well, that's good. To realize that not everybody is comfortable. So good. I'm very enthusiastic about it. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Katz. So how many ombudsmen are we hiring? I know they're going to OIT, O'Connor. How many are we hiring?
Pete, I'll take it, Pete. It's one individual. We are doing it under a contract to hire. The position will become permanent through an attrition position through OIT. Then the position will transfer to PAI in fiscal year 24 is the plan.
So one person, I mean, listen, ombudsman sounds like an excellent idea, but when I hear the numbers of 4,000 permits rolling through, I'm thinking one. So in all of OIT, well, you say one. How many new positions for PAI are you requesting?
I'm not requesting any new positions in PAI, but I will say that I would this is one ombudsman with a special skill and a set to deal with a specific set of issues. But I would tell you every one of my EAs are ombudsmans, and including myself and my project manager. So we continue to address these issues and walk through people. They will spend, I can tell you, Karen Lewis will spend 20 minutes on the phone with an individual, walking them through just our business process of why, what do I have to submit? So we still have other people assisting in that realm. There's about 10 people, I would say, but this is one that is specific to the technological issues that we are having along with the business process. So it's a special set of skills to also help our EAs. When they sit there and look at something and they go, I don't know what went wrong here, that's where this individual rolls up. A lot of times my EA will know what they did wrong. They'll look at it and they say, oh yeah, I've seen this problem before. Here's what you do. So the idea is for this ombudsman to say, next time you see this problem, here's how you solve it. And they'll tell the EAs.
Well, Director Gutwall, listen, I have nothing but much love and respect for you. You do a fantastic job, as I have said before. But I will be quite frank. I hear the complaints about how long some of the permits take to get done. And maybe it's the people's fault. I don't know. And I just know how important it is to Baltimore County, to our economy, that we process permits quickly and efficiently. And I'll be quite frank, I'm looking at the budget and I'm looking at all the new positions all around, and it blows my mind that only one new position would be earmarked for PAI. And I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I guess there'll be more conversations about it. But one new position in PAI, and that's going to OIT, when I have people constantly telling me how long it takes to get a permit process, and maybe it's their problem, maybe it's their fault, but one ombudsman, I'm not so sure is going to fix it. Any other questions or comments, or you want to respond? I'm open. I could take it.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple of comments.
Go ahead.
First, to Councilman Catch's comment about automation and computer literacy. I just want to say that, you know, I've got my hammer, chisel, and clay tablet, and it's worked just fine for me over the years, and I'm not
Right.
switching over
Yeah,
to anything else.
I'll introduce you to pens, pencils, and paper. Great, great. So we're going to get somewhere.
Okay, sounds good. So, Mr. Gutwald, I just want to say that I think you and your team have done an outstanding job. I will tell you that my team, as you are well aware, sends you an extraordinary amount of inquiries and requests, and your team is extremely responsive. I want to particularly acknowledge Adam Whitlock for doing an outstanding job, as well as yourself, Mr. Gutwald. I think you've really done Baltimore County great service. I want to talk a little bit about code enforcement. Through the work of the code enforcement work group, we learned that over the past 16, 17 years, that we had a graph going in the wrong direction in terms of the number of code enforcement officers that we had, that we were disinvesting to some degree in code enforcement. And so last year we added 6, the council added and the executive added 6 more code enforcement officers. I was hoping that we would get that graph going into the right trajectory even further with more code enforcement officers moving into fiscal year 2023. What's the thinking on that suggestion?
Oh, I think what and also to answer Councilman Jones's question. Okay, so some of the things that we're dealing with as we're not asking for new individuals, but I did ask for additional OT. I have a number of, as you saw in the report, there are a number of vacancies. I don't know, to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't know what we are operating at 100% capacity. The county executive has asked me that question. I mean, between COVID and when I go to hire somebody, I got another person who's retiring. I mean, I feel like I'm taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back every time I go to hire somebody, because once I get somebody on board, somebody else retires or takes another position someplace else. So one of the reasons why I probably didn't ask for more positions is because I'd like to see how we're operating at 100% capacity. And COVID has not given me that opportunity. We're coming out of COVID now. And in addition to it's a tight labor market right now, and getting people on board. I do have additional positions that Madam Mayo gave me through the ARP and CARES Act. I have been, it's been a struggle to get somebody in here, in those positions, to get that additional capacity going. So I've been working it through OT, and I'm looking at the future, and I'm saying let's keep that operative with the OT right now till I get stabilized with my positions. I will tell you, this time last year I was probably under 20 positions vacancy. Now, granted, a number of these vacancies were in real estate compliance, which is moving. Some of them are with business and amusement tax, so that doesn't really, it's not a true, reflection of the department in terms of total numbers. But when I looked at it last year, I mean, I had gotten that number down into the below the, somewhere in the mid-teens, less than teens, to now I'm back over to, to the 30. So my objective is to start dealing with some of these, these delays, which I think I've been successful in, getting the complaints down in terms of the delays. But in terms of code enforcement, same thing. I just got these guys up and operable with these new positions, if you will, in the last couple of months. And then I had a couple of retirements. So I think code enforcement, we'll take a look at that again as we go through the year, but we've been fairly successful in outreach and education, but also with our community sweeps. I think, we are doing, a lot of additional work than we have been in the past with the existing positions. And that number in terms of code enforcement is back to where it was before. The number of code enforcement officers are back to where it was during its heyday. So
Good.
I think I just need a little more time is my point. And I think you'll start to see some significant changes and enhancements. And please bear with me, Councilman Jones. I think, I might be bet with you next year, but I'm telling you right now, my objective is to deal with it overtime. That's why I asked the county executive for additional money in overtimes. I got more than willing people to put in the extra hour to get the work done. And we're doing really well with our one-day turnarounds. We've opened up, some of the initial complaints were the commercial tenant fit outs. And I know you and I have had that conversation, Councilman Jones, Chairman Jones, I'm sorry. And we've opened that door open. We've opened that door. So now people are able to come in and we've walked it. We've avoided the plans review process and went straight to building permit for a lot of those individuals that are doing those 1,000-unit tenant fit outs, 1,000 square foot, tenant fit outs. So we, living and learning, but at this point in time, I think we can muscle through and reassess this time next year.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilman Katz. Director Gutwald, I guess want to just make it clear. I'm very, very happy with what you're doing. I just want to make it clear that we want to be supportive of you and your effort in PAI because it is so important. Councilman Katz.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Pete, what is the competition with other subdivisions or the private sector? Are you running into that problem?
Absolutely. I'm running, it's not just the private sector. I'm running it with competing jurisdictions.
With, is it a difference in job descriptions? Is it a difference in compensation?
All of the above. I think that's, I'm going to put a shout out to Rhoda, Miss Benjamin, for the comp and class plan. It's all of the above. The job descriptions aren't right. The duties and the comps, all of the above. It's a competition, but it's not just with the private sector. It's also with neighboring jurisdictions as well.
Well, the police.
I'm competing with my own agencies. It's kind of funny. Public Works and myself are trading positions with each other from time to time.
Oh, that sounds healthy. Okay. There's a shortage of teachers, policemen, police officers, etc. So, we're experiencing a lot of problems with vacancies. There's no doubt about that. So, anyhow, again, thank you for all that you do. I really, and Mr. O'Connor as well. Thank you both very much.
Mr. Chair. Well, Councilman Katz, he just spoke. He doesn't get to speak anymore.
No, I thanked him for
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Gutwald, congratulations on finally getting some stuff behind your head. So you have a more interesting background than you did before. I know I gave you a hard time about that. I can echo the sentiments of my colleagues. You and your team have been very, very responsive to our office, and you inserted yourself into an issue today. Just today, you spent some of your own time helping us out with an issue in our district. So it's certainly appreciated. I've touted the rat eradication program in the past as a government program that actually works, and it's been successful. And So I just want to express my appreciation for the administration and yourself for funding the program again. But I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about the additions and the enhancements to the program that I read about in the auditor's report. Wanted to give you a chance to do that.
Sure. We added 2 new communities, Boston Courts, and then all of Turner Station, including Days Village as well. And that was a partnership, I should say, with them to get that, to get that off the ground, because they are doing part of their own rat eradication. So we partnered with them on our part, and as well, and with DPWT for second trash pickups. So we've expanded the program, and I will tell you from everybody that talks to me, I think the question was, what are the metrics? We are starting to get metrics. I think the metrics before were really, anecdotal, if you will. It was complaints. It was a complaint driven. But I will tell you, with Turner Station, my staff have told me they should have been on the list from the get-go. That was something that was dropped. So we were adamant of putting that back on the list to get that get going. But we will. Before we started the intensification program on the other 23 neighborhoods, and the first 5 that we've started with this year, we asked the companies, the vendors, we want to know what was when you go out there the first go round, what's out there the next go round. So it's an 8-week intensified program going back out there for the existing communities that we started 2-3 years ago, something to that effect. So it's time to go back out there and reassess and do an intensified program and treatment program through 8 weeks, and then go back. And I can't, off the top of my head, it's staggered was when they go back out to reassess that. So we started with the 5 new programs. We added 2. We will continue to add to the rest of the 23 programs as we go through other 23 communities as we go through the fiscal year. So that's sort of where we are with the rat eradication, and also education and outreach. We're working with DPWT as to other ways where we can control, we've got to control the food source, right? So we're talking to DPWT of how we can deal with communities and keeping the trash in the right, in the proper, containers with the trash lids, tight, and those kinds of things. So we're also doing other measures to try and help the communities out, and learning as we walk through the communities themselves what they do. It's kind of interesting. It's been quite interesting to hear how they use mothballs to keep the rats out of the area. So
everybody has their own sort of secret sauce that they use to keep these the rodent populations down. So I've said many times in the past that the program really only works with citizen involvement. So and knowledge on how you should be treating your own trash, how you need to clean up after your pets. So I do appreciate the educational component to that, because I think there's still, even though we've been at this for a long time, there are still people out there that just aren't getting it, and I'm not quite sure where their minds are with not treating their trash properly or cleaning up after their pets, which just adds to the population. Of course, then we all get more and more complaints. But I will tell you that we went through, when I first was elected, we went through multiple complaints a day, and now we're down to maybe a complaint or 2 every quarter. So the program has been successful, and I'm glad to see that it's proposed to be continued to be funded.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Mr. Chair.
No. Thank you, Councilman Crandall. Any additional questions or comments from the members? Well, then
One more thing, Mr. Chairman.
one more thing.
Yeah, very briefly. And again, I would be remiss if I did not thank Adam Whitlock, Justin Olszewski, the others who were also helping me on the rat issues. But Pete, you really have spectacular staff. You've been very helpful Jeff Perlow's been very helpful, Matt Gow, all of them, various issues. So again, thanks very much.
Thank you. Yes, I do. I agree with you with the great staff. Yes. Dedicated.
Okay. Fantastic. There's no question about it. You do a great job, Director Gutwall, and like I said, I just want to make sure you have all the staff necessary. Any additional questions or comments from the members? All right. Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Have a great day and take care.